Hello, welcome to the quiz. As usual, if you're tuning in and it's no longer live, just go to the... Where's my window over there? Go to the description of this video and it will have a link to the quiz so you can avoid all this waffle at the beginning. Hello, first person to tune in. Got my Terminator shades on. Just drove through what seemed like the remains of a tornado had gone through. There's trees down everywhere. Anyway, managed to get home okay. Let me close all these tabs which are not related to the thing. Actually, I need to post the link to the YouTube page or people, the Facebook page, or people will be freaking out. Where's it be posted? No. We're getting started at about 7:35 ADST. Where's the event? There's the event. She made an event in advance this time. I think, yes, I did. Good. And spinning the link around if I can learn how to spell the word live. Hello, 2 people who've tuned in before I even put the link up. Is that posting? Yes, it is. Good. Done. Happy. Hello, Pierrot. Right, trivia mode. Hasn't been that long since I did trivia, but my brain is not in the right mode. What do I got to do? I've got to spam it in various places. Let me close that. Good. Right, posting this. The spamity. And let me check. I think I'm being abused in private messages. Yes, I am. Anyway, I'm going to send a message to that person later because I can't be bothered. Hello, Simone. What else do I need to do? I need to... Hello, Joan. I need to open up my quiz questions, which I actually wrote on a different computer. So here's hoping Dropbox has done its magic thing and actually copied all my questions over to this computer. It has. Good. Fine. 20 of those, 20 of those, 10 of those, 2 of those. Cool. Hello, Jill. I'm just sending a message completely unrelated to trivia because somebody has annoyed me. Good. Where else do I need to post? Okay, one other place. Right, we'll be starting in about 3 minutes. So feel free to grab a snack or a drink. I go to here. That's not the correct window. That's the correct window. Oh. Name. Okay, good. Okay, Facebook page, quiz, YouTube. Sorted. Where's my drink? Here. Tonight I'm drinking vanilla Coke because that was what I got with the Oporto that I had on the way home. Hello, ads. But when that inevitably runs out, here's one I prepared earlier. In fact, I haven't prepared it because I haven't taken the lid off it, and it's not a twist top, and I don't have a bottle opener here. I do have some pliers. So, yes, hopefully that doesn't go horribly wrong. It's nearly a year since I took the end of my finger off at work, so that's something to celebrate by accidentally smashing a bottle and injuring myself horribly. Hopefully not. I'll be starting in a couple of minutes as you're tuning in. If this is your first time here, don't worry, I will be going through how it all works and the rules, etc. in a couple of minutes. We'll be starting at about 7:35 ADST, which is about 2 minutes from now. Yes, Pierre remembers me cutting the end of my finger off at work, leaving a trail of blood all through our nice, shiny facility. My finger almost looks normal. It's a bit wonky on the end. It's not too bad, really. There's some scars. And it feels a bit strange. But it could have been a lot worse. All right. Let's go through the blurb of how this all works. In case you haven't played before, or in case you hit your head and forgotten how it works since last week. This is basically just pub quiz, but we can't go to the pub because of COVID. Although we probably can now, but I can't be bothered. Anyway, so we're going to have 3 rounds. The first round is going to be 20 questions of relatively easy trivia. I don't do super easy trivia. Sorry about that. But it's going to be relatively easy. And then I'll give you the answers at the end of the round. And then round 2 is 20 more difficult, less easy questions. Although looking at question 1 of round 2 is stupidly easy. So anyway, the theory doesn't always match the facts. And then I'll give you the answer at the end of that round, the answers. And then we have our round 3, which is our silly / difficult / trick question round. There's only 10 of those, but if you get any points in that round, you're doing pretty well. I'll give you the answers at the end of that too. And then we have a couple of who am I questions, which you can use as a tiebreaker if you like. And then that's the end. It's not the type of quiz where you need to be the fastest person typing in the comments or anything like that. You're basically just playing against yourself or against the quiz or against your friends if you organize that in advance. So yeah, you just write your own answers down and keep them in your head. And mark yourself when I give the answers at the end of the round. And if you do want to share your score, you can do so in the YouTube comments. But please don't put the answers into the YouTube comments because that's kind of a spoiler. Except for the who am I's right at the end when you're welcome to put the answer in because there's kind of a time-based thing with that. Okay, hope that made sense. It's probably more coherent than normal because I'm drinking Coke instead of beer, he says, clumsily kicking the microphone stand. Okay, it is 7:36. I'm officially 1 minute late. Let's get started with round 1. Question 1. You generally start with a capital city question, and no different this week. What is the capital city of Turkey? Round 1, question 1. What is the capital city of Turkey? That's Turkey, the Middle Eastern country, not the North American bird, obviously. What is the capital city of Turkey? Question 2. What is the English name for a quattro formaggio pizza? Round 1. Question 2. What is the English name for a quattro formaggi pizza? Quattro formaggi. Quattro space Formaggi. Quattro formaggi. What is the English version of that name? It's a type of pizza. Question 3. In the film Saving Private Ryan, who played Private Ryan? Question 3, and I'm already having question deja vu. And we haven't before. No, we haven't. It's repeating because it's twice in the question. Good. Carry on. It's not a repeat. Question 3. In the film Saving Private Ryan, who, as in which actor, played Private Ryan? I'm assuming you can all hear me okay, because no one is in the comments saying, hey, James's lips are moving, but I can't see him. I can't hear him. And yes, my name is James, in case I didn't introduce myself earlier, and you're new to the quiz. Feel free to say hello in the YouTube comments. If you're trying to comment in the YouTube thing and you can't, it may be because YouTube requires you to have a channel before you can comment. I don't know why. So if you go into your settings in YouTube and make a default channel, you will then be able to comment. Okay, question 4. Which is the only even prime number? Question 4. Which number is the only even prime number? Davy Jones says, hey, what? Okay. People are confused. Let's quickly run through the questions in case you missed the first couple. Round 1, question 1. What is the capital city of Turkey? Round 1, question 2. What is the English name for a quattro formaggi pizza? Question 3. In the film Saving Private Ryan, who played Private Ryan? And question 4. Which is the only even prime number? Or which number is the only even prime number? That's much less complicated than I've made it sound. Hello, Norel, and presumably Stephen. Hello, Andrew. Hello, Davey. Hello, Jill, if I didn't say hello before. Question 6. According to Professor Julius Sumner Miller, how much full cream dairy milk is in a bar of Cadbury's chocolate? If you have no idea what I'm talking about, that's because you are a young person, and that's not my fault. And for those playing along at home, I did miss out question 5. What is in this? This is what happens when I don't drink beer. I get too carried away. I start skipping numbers. So question 5 should have been, what is the name of the pirate in Peter Pan? Question 5, what is the name of the pirate in Peter Pan? I think I'm going to go with the pirate captain for that one. There's more than one pirate in Peter Pan. So what is the name of the pirate captain in Peter Pan? And question 6 was, according to Professor Julius Sumner Miller, how much full cream dairy milk is in a bar of Cadbury's chocolate? Hello, Andrew Wong. I don't know if you've played before. Are you the Andrew Wong I think you are? Or are you the someone else? That's not a very helpful way to ask a question, is it? But I think if you are the one I'm thinking of, then you'll know what I mean. Question 7. Which tourist attraction in Rome, completed in 1762, takes its name from its location where 3 roads meet? Hello, Kim, Meg, and Paul. Question 7. Which tourist attraction in Rome, completed in 1762, takes its name from its location where 3 roads meet? I have to go and see what has happened over there. Right. Question 8. What's the more common name for plants in the genus Digitalis? Digitalis. Question 8. What is the more common name for plants in the genus Digitalis? So Digitalis is a genus of plants, but what's the more common name for those types of plants? Is he the wrong Wong? I didn't want to go down that road. It's not fun to make. It's not cool to make fun of people's names. But anyway, question 8. What is the more common name for plants in the genus Digitalis? Was question 8. Question 9. What is the name of the major highway between Brisbane and Cairns? This is me trying to not be Sydney-centric with my questions. Question 9. What is the name of the major highway between Brisbane and Cairns? Okay, you probably didn't need to delete that message, but fair enough. Question 9 was, what's the name of the major highway between Brisbane and Cairns? Cairns? Don't know really how you pronounce Cairns. Never been there. I'm imagining it's too hot for me. I don't cope with the heat. And Brisbane's already pretty hot as far as I'm concerned. I'm thinking Cairns is going to be very hot. Question 10 is multiple choice. And the question is, what are skerries? Skerries. Skerries. What are skerries? Are they A, small rocky islands, usually without population? B, a small bird of prey? Or C, part of traditional Scottish attire? So question 10, what are skerries? Are they A, small rocky islands, B, a small bird of prey, or C, part of traditional Scottish attire? Yes, I imagine it is pretty hot in Cairns. Although, I mean, Western Sydney, Southwest Sydney, where I spend a lot of my time, does get pretty flippin' hot. Does it really get that much hotter in Cairns? Maybe it's just hotter for longer. To question 10, what are skerries? Are they A, small rocky islands, B, a small bird of prey, or C, part of traditional Scottish attire? Question 11, which Australian rock band was headlined by Doc Neeson? I have no memory of writing that question. Question 11, which Australian rock band was headlined by Doc Neeson? Right. So it's been quite a few bands. So if you name any of the bands on his wiki page, that'll be fine. I mean, there's one big one. But I'm going to say if you name any of them on his wiki page, that'll be fine. Okay. So question 11 was, which Australian rock band was headlined by Doc Neeson? Question 12, which company does Wile E. Coyote source his equipment from? You remember Wile E. Coyote chasing down Roadrunner with varying degrees of success. He always seemed to order his equipment from a particular company. What's the name of that company? Question 12. Which company does Wile E. Coyote source his equipment from? And his fabulous paintings of tunnels. There's a picture doing the rounds. I don't know how genuine it is, but there's a series of pictures where someone's painted a Wile E. Coyote type tunnel on a wall somewhere, and then the next photo is of a car that has driven into that wall because it looks like a tunnel. So I don't know if it's a setup or if it's a real thing, but anyway. Question 13. Which country has a border with Vietnam, Laos, and Thailand? Question 13. Which country has a border with Vietnam, Laos, and Thailand? What are you thinking about that? I'm going to check on the Virtual Aussie Pub Quiz Facebook page, make sure nobody is confused about where the quiz is or anything, as sometimes happens. If you do want to be informed of future events, go to the Facebook page, Virtual Aussie Pub Quiz, and I guess you like the page. And yeah, you'll be informed of future events with varying amounts of notice. Question 13 was, which country has a border with Vietnam, Laos, and Thailand? Question 14, which gulf forms the easternmost arm of the Baltic Sea? 2 geography questions in a row. Question 14, which gulf forms the easternmost arm of the Baltic Sea? I've been there, into the gulf that forms the easternmost arm of the Baltic Sea. It's a lovely part of the world. And not, I will say, particularly hot. So question 14, which gulf forms the easternmost arm of the Baltic Sea? So obviously it's the Gulf of something, or the something Gulf. Anyway, question 15, which agreement, originally signed in 1985 and now part of EU law, abolished border controls between many European countries, allowing citizens to pass freely between them? So question 15, which agreement, originally signed in 1985 and now part of EU law, abolished border controls between many European countries, allowing citizens to pass freely between them? That happened to me on that trip. I drove from Estonia into Latvia, and I had a phone plan from a company in Estonia, and when you go through the border, there's basically nothing. There's just a sign that says you're in Latvia now. There's no border control because of this agreement. But within meters of me going over the border, my phone stopped working because I didn't have a plan in Latvia, which was kind of amazing. I thought it might, towers and whatever, I might sort of get a bit of a free pass when I'm in the neighboring country. Nope. So I don't know if that's done with GPS or they just tune the towers so that they don't reach past the border. Anyway, question 16. Where in a car would you find ethylene glycol? Okay, I mean, you could find it anywhere. You could find it on the roof if you put a bottle of it on the roof. Okay, so where in a car would you use ethylene glycol? Question 16. Where in a car would you use ethylene glycol? Simone is going to see them in a few weeks. I assume that is the Australian rock band that was headlined by Doc Neeson. It is no longer headlined by Doc Neeson because he died in 2014. Okay. Question 16 was, where in a car would you use ethylene glycol? Question 17. The German word Blitzkrieg entered common usage during the Second World War. But what is the literal translation into English of the word Blitzkrieg? Blitzkrieg. Blitzkrieg. Okay, question 18 is another multiple choice. So question 18, if you're suffering from scabies, 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 is your condition caused by A, inflammation of the nerve root, B, infestation by mites, or C, dehydration of the upper skin layer? So question 18, if you're suffering from scabies, is your condition caused by A, inflammation of the nerve root, B, infestation by mites, or C, dehydration of the upper skin layer? Multiple choice questions. 1 in 3. Question 19, we're getting towards the end of round 1. Question 19, the most abundant seabird species in Australian waters is the short-tailed or slender-billed shearwater. But what is the more common name for these birds? Question 19, the most abundant seabird species, seabird bloody flavour, in Australian waters is the short-tailed or slender-billed shearwater. But what is the more common name for these birds? We had a shearwater question the other day. It's one of my favorite trivia questions, which is, of course, which bird has the Latin name Puffinus puffinus? And it's not the puffin, it's the Manx shearwater. But anyway, that's not the question. The question is, the most abundant seabird species in Australian waters is the short-tailed or slender-billed shearwater, but what is the more common name for these birds? There is a very common name that we refer to these birds by, and it's, I'm not going to give it too much of a hint, but yeah, I'll tell you why they have that nickname when I give you the answer. And question 20, the final question of this round. The actress Dakota Johnson starred in the 50 Shades of Grey film trilogy, but for half a point each, who are her famous real-life parents? So question 20, the actress Dakota Johnson starred in the 50 Shades of Grey film trilogy, but for half a point each, who are her famous real-life parents? Davy Jones says, the puffin question is most annoying. That's what makes it such an excellent trivia question, that there is a clear, obvious, and wrong answer. That's what makes a good round 3 question anyway. But to clarify, question 19 wasn't anything to do with the puffin. It is the most abundant seabird species in Australian waters is the short-tailed or slender-billed shearwater, but what is the more common name for these birds? Anyway, that brings us to the end of round 1. I'll give you a minute or two to think about those, and then I will give you the answers. If you need any of those repeated or clarified or whatever, because the sound went weird or anything like that, let me know. I kind of don't want to drink the rest of this Coke. I kind of want to get started on my beer. Anyway. That's that problem solved. This is how tidy my little work desk I have here is. This is the putty that they gave me. Theraputty. It's a putty they gave me to help me with my finger when my finger needed to be rehabilitated when I took the end off it. To do with retraining the nerves to feel the right spots on the surface of the skin after they'd all been cut. Fascinating stuff. Anyway, question 20 repeated, please, says Kim. So question 20 was, the actress Dakota Johnson starred in the 50 Shades of Grey film trilogy, but for half a point each, who are her famous real-life parents? Do a Coke and beer depth charge. Vanilla beer. Don't think that's going to go down well. There's even different flavors of this buddy. There's like soft and firm. Probably don't need it anymore. Now my finger mostly works again. Right. Maybe I'll give you another 30 seconds to think about that while I engineer a solution to not having a bottle opener on me. I know if I'm a real man, I'd open it with my eye socket or something stupid like that, but I'll just use, tools, he says confidently. Right, that's not working very well. Right, let's go through the answers to round 1 while I'm trying not to break the top off this bottle. Round 1, question 1 was, what is the capital city of Turkey? The capital of Turkey is Ankara, Ankara. It's one of those ones where you think it's going to be something else. A bit like Sydney. Most people think Sydney is the capital of Australia because it's the biggest city. They're wrong. Most people think that Istanbul is the capital of Turkey because it's the biggest city. They're wrong. It is, of course, Ankara. Question 2. What is the English name? That's a promising sound from the beer. What's the English name for a quattro formaggi pizza? Well, quattro is obviously 4, and formaggi is cheese. So the answer to question 2 is it's a 4-cheese pizza. Question 3. In the film Saving Private Ryan, who played Private Ryan? It was Matt Damon. It was Matt Damon. Question 3. I still haven't seen Saving Private Ryan. It just seems like it's going to be really stressful. I just don't need that kind of stress in my life, An engineer should know the right tool for the job. Yes, and I'm a right tool. No. I have a bottle opener on my keys. Not that I'm an alcoholic. It's a useful thing to have on your keys. And I put my keys down on a thing in another room, and then I came in here and forgot. But anyway, look, I've opened my beer. Huzzah! Cheers. Right. Question 3, Matt Damon. Question 4, which is the only even prime number? That is the number 2. Prime numbers, of course, being numbers that are only divisible by themselves and 1. So the only even number that's true of is the number 2. Because the next even number is, well, all the other even numbers are divisible by 2. Yeah, I know. You do that off the edge of the table and in your eye socket and all those things, but yeah, I'll just, I've got thumbs. I'll use tools. Question 5. What is the name of the pirate captain in Peter Pan? That is, of course, Captain Hook. Excuse me. Question 6. According to Professor Julius Sumner Miller, how much full cream dairy milk is in a bar of Cadbury's chocolate? If you know the answer, I'm sure it's ringing in your head in his very distinctive American accent. It's 1.5 glasses of full cream dairy milk. That was a terrible impersonation, but it is 1.5 glasses is how much Professor Julius Sumner Miller reckons was in a bar of Cadbury's chocolate. Never mind all the sugar. Anyway, the answer is 1.5 glasses. Question 7. Which tourist attraction in Rome takes its name from its location where 3 roads meet? That is the Trevi Fountain, Trevi, Trevi. And of course, there's a connection to trivia because trivia, trivia, 3 roads, which I think trivia is actually a reference to the 3 schools of classical education, the 3 ways. Anyway, why is it so? That's right, I forgot that. Okay, good. The Trevi Fountain. Yeah, anyway, look up. I'm sure you've looked it up already, but the Wikipedia page for trivia, where the name comes from, is interesting. Anyway, question 8. What is the more common name for plants in the genus Digitalis? That is foxglove plants. Foxglove plants, I'm pretty sure they're famously poisonous, aren't they? The term Digitalis, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, foxglove has medicinal uses, but can also be toxic to humans and other animals. Anyway, the answer is foxglove. Question 9. What is the name of the major highway between Brisbane and Cairns? Cairns is the Bruce Highway, probably the most Australian named highway in the world, the Bruce Highway. Question 10. What are skerries? I sort of accidentally gave the answer away a little bit because I got distracted and looked at the wrong line and I gave away the thing. Anyway, the answer, are they small rocky islands? B, a small bird of prey, or C, part of traditional Scottish attire? They are A, small rocky islands, usually without population. See, I read the answer bit instead of the question bit when I asked the question. Anyway, the answer is A, small rocky islands. Question 11, which Australian rock band was headlined by Doc Neeson? The answer I have is the Angels, I think is probably the one he is most associated with. But you know, there are other answers to that question which would be correct. So according to his wiki page, if you had the Innocents, Moonshine Jug and String Band, the Keystone Angels, the Angels, Doc Neeson's Angels, or Red Phoenix, you can have a point, but I was thinking of the Angels. Right. Am I ever going to see your face again? No, probably not. Question 12. Which company does Wile E. Coyote source his equipment from? It's Acme Corp, ACME Corp. Skerry is a small island. No, I'm not going to give you the kilt thing unless you can provide me proof. If you look up Skerry in Wikipedia, it says a small island. Okay, what are we up to? Question 12. Wile E. Coyote gets his stuff from Acme Corp, ACME Corp. Question 13. Which country has a border with Vietnam, Laos, and Thailand? That is Cambodia. Formerly Kampuchea, but Cambodia. Question 15. Which gulf forms the easternmost arm of the Baltic Sea? That is the Gulf of Finland. I've taken a ferry from Helsinki to Tallinn. And yeah, they call it a ferry. It's basically a 3-story cruise ship that takes hours. I think it's 5 hours or something. It's a fair old journey anyway. Lots of sleeping Russians and stairwells, etc. Question... So the answer is the Gulf of Finland. Question 15, which agreement, etc., allows citizens to pass freely between many European countries? That is the Schengen Agreement, and those countries are known as the Schengen Zone. Schengen is a town near where it was signed. So it's the Schengen Agreement, and it defines the Schengen Zone, basically large parts of mainland Europe where you can travel between without any borders at all. The borders just aren't there. You just drive down a road and 1 minute you're in one country and 1 minute you're in the next. Happened between Latvia and Lithuania as well. And my GPS stopped working. And you've never been lost until you've been lost in a rental car in rural Lithuania. Let me tell you that. Anyway, question 16. Where in a car would you use ethylene glycol? The radiator or the cooling system. Ethylene glycol is antifreeze. So the answer to question 16 is you'd use it in the radiator or the cooling system. It is antifreeze. Question 17, the German word blitzkrieg entered common usage during the Second World War. What is the literal translation into English? Well, blitz is the German word for lightning, and Krieg is war. So the literal translation of blitzkrieg is lightning war. Question 18, if you're suffering from scabies, is your condition caused by A, inflammation of the nerve root, B, infestation by mites, or C, dehydration of the upper skin layer? It is B, mites. Scabies is a mite infestation. Inflammation of the nerve root is shingles, I think. Right, and don't know what the other one is. But anyway, the answer is B, infestation by mites. Question 19, slightly strange question. The most abundant seabird species in Australian waters is the short-tailed or slender-billed shearwater. What is the more common name for these birds? They're simply called mutton birds. You see lots of them washing up on beaches in Australia because they get a bit confused about how far they can migrate, and they tend to just drop dead into the sea halfway. And they're called mutton birds. I don't exactly know why. I'm sure their Wikipedia page would tell me. I imagine it's because they taste like mutton, because they are one of the few wild seabirds that is commercially harvested. The chicks are harvested for oil and feathers and stuff. Seems pretty grim. Anyway, you can look that up. But anyway, the answer is mutton birds. And question 20, the actress Dakota Johnson starred in the 50 Shades of Grey film trilogy, but for half a point each, who are her famous real-life parents? They are Melanie Griffith and Don Johnson. And her grandmother is Tippi Hedren, also an actress. But for half a point each, Melanie Griffith and Don Johnson. And she has, I guess you'd call them step-siblings, because Antonio Banderas and Melanie Griffith had some children together as well. So, pretty good on the genetic front, I imagine, the whole lot of them. Anyway, that's the end of round 1. Let me know how you went in the comments. Pierrot got 6 points. Ad's got 14. Davy Jones says, used to be used for candles. Yeah, I think that's the mutton birds. They produce oil or something that you can burn. I mean, it's pretty grim what people get up to, really, isn't it? I mean, I'm not a vegetarian, but I think harvesting wild bird chicks is kind of pushing the limits of things. Anyway, Jill, half siblings, says Simone. Does that make sense? Yeah, I guess stepchildren are from totally different. I don't know. Anyway, Jill, Joan, and Chris got 18. Simone got 13.5. Davy Jones got 11. Nikki got 13. And Parrot got 6, and Ad's got 14, which I think I mentioned earlier. Not too bad. Good spread of points. Let me check the Facebook page, make sure nobody's lost or confused. Hello, Lilia, who has liked my event. Nope, all seems to be going pretty well. If they share one parent, they are half siblings. So if they share... I see, if they share no parents, as in, what? How does step siblings work then? What's the difference between step siblings and half siblings? I'm confused now. Oh, so step siblings, they don't share a parent, but they have, the families have joined together since the kids were born. Right, so they don't, yeah, there's no common parent for the kids. Right, I get you. That was confusing. Narelle 14, Stephen 11. Okay. Wow. Stephen, there were 3 geography questions in that round. Anyway, let's push on to round 2. Question 1. This isn't even a round 1 question. I don't even know why this is in there. This is equivalent of writing your own name at the top of the form. Anyway, round 2, question 1. How many holes are there in a normal 10-pin bowling ball? You missed 2. Question 1 of round 2. How many holes are there in a normal 10-pin bowling ball? Why is my phone buzzing? Because there's a message on the Facebook page which says, Peter just arrived. Well, Peter, you managed to just miss round 1, unfortunately. But you and anyone else can tune in to the video later and pretend that it's live, even when it isn't. Just look on the YouTube channel, which I can't name the channel anything other than my own name because of YouTube rules. I don't know why. Anyway, so round 2, question 1, how many holes are there in a normal 10-pin bowling ball? Question 2, which is the state excuse me, which has no history of convict settlers. Only Australian state which has no history of convict settlers. So basically everybody who settled there did so because they wanted to, as opposed to all the other states where lots of people who settled there didn't want to, but were forced to because they stole a loaf of bread or otherwise angered the authorities in old Blighty. David Jones says, video just went real bad. Okay, YouTube's not telling me anything bad, so don't know. As long as the audio keeps working, I guess we'll be fine. Question 3. What name is used for both the raised area at the front of a saddle and the counterweight on the end of a European sword hilt? Okay, it's a complicated question, but basically there's a name for both of those things. It's the same name. What is the name? And the two things are the raised area at the front of a saddle and the counterweight on the end of a European sword hilt. Norel says the video's okay there. And yeah, normally YouTube says, yeah, your connection's going badly. And it's not saying that, so I'm assuming it's okay. Question 4. The Four Seasons is perhaps the best known work of which Baroque composer? Is it Baroque or Baroque? It's definitely not Barak. Anyway, question 4. The Four Seasons is perhaps the best known work of which Baroque composer? Peter says, yes, video glitching. All right, well, hopefully YouTube is smart and sacrifices video to make the audio work. And you can still hear the questions, but if we get to the end and you need any questions repeated, just let me know and I'll repeat them. Question 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One of the first objects visible in the night sky is the evening star. But what is the correct name for this object? Question 5. One of the first objects visible in the night sky is the evening star. But what is the correct name for this object? Audio is holding up. That's good to hear. There are other people in my house, and there is only a bit of wet string connecting this house to the rest of the internet. And there are some serious storms going through. When I was driving home, it was like a tornado had been through. There was just trees down everywhere, cars parked at weird angles off the side of the road. Yeah, it was a bit of a drama. But it seems to have passed and calmed down now, but it's probably wreaking havoc elsewhere in Sydney. Anyway, question 6. In standard tuning, the top and bottom strings of a guitar are both tuned to which note? Question 6. In standard tuning, the top and bottom strings of a guitar are both tuned to which note? It's obviously not the same exact note. I think there are a few octaves apart, so I could probably work out how many they are if I could mentally go through my scales in my head, but I can't be bothered. I'm going to say 2 octaves apart. Anyway, answers on a postcard. The point is they're both the same note. So question 6, in standard tuning, the top and bottom strings of a guitar are both tuned to which note? Question 7, which handheld radiation measuring device takes its name from one of its co-inventors? Question 7, which handheld radiation measuring device takes its name from one of its co-inventors? The question is basically name a handheld radiation measuring device. Nikki says, watching towards the Central Coast, the lightning is wild. And Peter says the video is okay now. Good. Question 8, multiple choice. How old was Henry VIII when he inherited the throne? Was he A, 7, B, 17, C, 27, or D, 37? It's a 4-option multiple choice. Question 8. How old was Henry VIII when he inherited the throne? Was he A, 7, B, 17, C, 27, or D, 37? How old was Henry VIII when he inherited the throne? How old was he when he died? That would be another question. For a bonus point, how old was he when he died? Why not? I'm assuming that's something that's known. Find out. Yes, it is known when he died. So, yes, question 8. How old was Henry VIII when he inherited the throne? Was he A, 7, B, 17, C, 27, or D, 37? And for a bonus point, what the heck? How old was he when he died? Good. Question 9. Hugh Laurie, one of my man crushes, Hugh Laurie played Dr. House from 2004 to 2012. House was the most watched TV show in the world in 2008. But what is the first name of the character Dr. House? So question 9, Hugh Laurie played House on the TV show House from 2004 to 2012. House was the most watched TV show in the world in 2008, sometimes called House MD as well. But anyway, what is the first name of the character Dr. House? Kind of thinking that should be around 3 question, actually. Anyway. I actually saw Hugh Laurie. He toured a few years ago with a blues band, Hugh Laurie and the Copper Bottom Boys or Copper Bottom Band or something. And they were really good. Like, not, this is a vanity project for an actor and we'll just all play along and tell him how good he is. Genuinely good, really good, at the State Theatre in Sydney. Fantastic. Like, he's an amazing musician guy as well as an actor, etc. But he also knows how to put a good band together and sometimes just get out of their way and let them do their thing. And yeah, the combination was pretty amazing. Anyway, not been to many gigs in a while. Thanks, COVID. Question, what are we up to now? Question 10. Charles Kingford Smith made the world's first trans-Pacific flight in a plane with what name? Question 10. What was the name of the plane in which Charles Kingsford Smith made the world's first trans-Pacific flight? Yes, Nikki's talking about lightning, and Narelle says Blitzkrieg. It's good. So there was a gig I was going to see that got cancelled or postponed indefinitely thanks to COVID. Who was it? They were supported by Snog, who is a little known but pretty cool, if somewhat morbid, Australian electronic artist who did Corporate Slave and a few other things. Oh, man, I'm having a mental blank. Snog was supporting somebody. It'll come to me. Anyway, that gig's been postponed indefinitely. I think there may be a new date for it. My ticket may still work, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm keen to go and stand in a small room with 500 people just yet. Question 11. South Shields and North Shields are 2 towns in the UK on either side of which river? Are they towns? I think they're probably cities. Anyway, South Shields and North Shields are 2 towns in the UK, and they're on either side of which river? It's not as obscure as it sounds because that whole area is named for that river. South Shields is a coastal town. Okay, fine. We'll call it a town. So question 11, South Shields and North Shields are two towns in the UK on either side of which river? Question 12, in the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which dance begins with a jump to the left? Question 12, in the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which dance begins with a jump to the left? That's going to annoy me. Who was the band? It wasn't They Might Be Giants. It was... And one song by Pop Will Eat Itself. That's who it was. Yeah, Pop Will Eat Itself, supported by Snog. Amazing. Would have been a great gig. Anyway. Question 12 was, in the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which dance begins with a jump to the left? Question 13, tourists in Ireland kiss which stone in the hope of receiving the gift of the gab? Question 13, tourists in Ireland kiss which stone in the hope of receiving the gift of the gab? So what's the name of that particular famous stone? Simone says, Aussie Trevor White provided Rocky's singing voice. The model couldn't sing. What? Is that like in the film? Supplemental facts from the audience. Googling Trevor White, musician, is a British-Australian singer-songwriter. Okay, I'll allow it. He auditioned for the Australian production of Jesus Christ Superstar. Well, doesn't mention it on his wiki page. I'm sure it's true, but born in Chelmsford, Essex. Right, what are we up to now? Yes, good point. Good point, Davey. Is kissing the special stone COVID safe? I'm thinking probably not, unless they sanitize it after every person. Question 14. If you are in a Thai restaurant and you order a dish with the word moo in the name, M-O-O, what meat are you ordering? I think we had a similar question to this recently. That's not the right button. That's the right button. Question 14 was, if you're in a Thai restaurant, lucky you for a start, and secondly, if you order a dish with the word moo, M-O-O, in the name, what meat are you ordering? So if you ordered pad siu moo, what meat would be in that delicious noodle dish? Right. Question 15. What is bradycardia? B-R-A-D-Y-C-A-R-D-I-A. What is bradycardia? Looks like the internet connection has sorted itself out. As I was saying, there's a piece of wet string that connects my house to the greater internet, and there are several people here chewing up the bandwidth. I mean, we do have the NBN, but it's on, yeah, anyway, don't get me started. Many years ago, I used the free Wi-Fi, which wasn't even secured with a password. You could literally just connect any device to it. The free Wi-Fi at the airport in Osaka, and I uploaded the entire contents of my phone, including all the HD videos and everything, in less time than it took for me to have a shower, because I was in the airport hotel, because it was quicker to do that and sort it out when I got home than it was to actually look through the videos and choose which ones I wanted to upload. Whereas if I'd done that at home, I'd have to choose the individual files, and then it would have taken probably weeks to upload them, because I had my phone just sitting on the window of a bullet train for like 10 minutes looking at Mount Fuji and all kinds of stuff, and shooting in the highest res that the phone could handle. Anyway, one of these days we'll get the internet sorted out in Australia. But not today. Question 16. Which band told us in 1985 that they built this city on rock and roll? Question 16. Which band told us in 1985 that they built this city on rock and roll? I'm just confirming a supplemental fact because there may be a bonus question in this one. So obviously it's okay. A few bands have covered it, but we want to know the original one from 1985, the original band. And yeah, can't really do a bonus question on that one. Narelle says, very nice. And Simone says, my son plays that song to irritate me. Okay. I assume they're both talking about the same thing. Anyway, question 17. Sciatica or sciatica, 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 I think it's pronounced, is a medical condition, it's multiple choice, caused by irritation to what? Excuse me. Is it A, a muscle, B, a nerve, C, a bone, or D, connecting tissue? So question 17, sciatica is a medical condition caused by irritation to what? Is it A, a muscle, B, a nerve, C, a bone, or D, connecting tissue? Speaking of irritating, question 18, in the world of Star Trek, which species has the catchphrase, resistance is futile? Question 18, in the world of Star Trek, which alien species, or which non-human species, has the catchphrase, resistance is futile? We will add your biological and technological distinctiveness to our own. You shall exist to service us. Resistance is futile. Which species? Actually, that particular... anyway, you know the one I'm talking about. So which aliens, which alien species, which bad guys had the catchphrase, resistance is futile? And Narelle clarified she was talking about the Japanese internet bullet train thing. Yes, the Shinkansen was cool. The videos, actually, the coolest thing about the Shinkansen was how smooth they were. Everyone knows you put the coin on the, on its edge on the windowsill essentially, and it just stays there because the train is so stable, even though you're going through corners and stuff. You don't really get a sensation of speed until you pass another train going the other way. And you know how long your train is and how long that train is. And it goes past like, and it's just gone. Like it's a split second or a couple of seconds at most. It's pretty impressive. Super smooth and quiet. Anyway, question 19. Which heavy metal band had hits with songs called One, Fade to Black, and For Whom the Bell Tolls? Question 19. Which heavy metal band had hits with songs called One, Fade to Black, and For Whom the Bell Tolls? Spoilers. What did I spoil? Anyway. And question 20. Which 1979 film? I know. At least it's not the 80s. It's not quite an 80s film. I'm spreading my wings slightly. Question 20. Which 1979 film takes its name from the belief that an out-of-control nuclear reactor could burn its way through the center of the Earth? So question 20, which 1979 film takes its name from the belief that an out-of-control nuclear reactor could burn its way through the center of the Earth? It's kind of an iconic film. Star Trekkin'. We had that a couple of weeks ago by The Firm. Somebody reminded me. I had that song stuck in my head for the rest of the night. and the next morning, actually. All right, that brings us to the end of round 2. Give you a few seconds and then we'll go through the answers. Why is my phone flashing a light at me? Because somebody has messaged me. And they're saying... I don't know why they're saying that. Messages. Don't know why I'm looking at my phone when I could just look on the PC here. Peter was saying that he loved the Shinkansen and also the maglev in Shanghai. Well, when was I in Japan? It was 2015-ish, 14, 15, 16, around then. They had a maglev in development, or maybe they had a run of it somewhere, but we didn't get to go on it. But they had a model of it. We went to the Shinkansen Museum because I was traveling with a 10-year-old boy. So, of course, we went to the train museum. And they had all the different models of Shinkansen there, but they also had a model of the maglev that you could control and showed how it all works. Everything was really cool. But I don't think it was actually in production in Japan yet when we were there. But I know there is one in Shanghai. Why don't we have one between Sydney and Melbourne, and between Sydney and Brisbane, and for that matter, between Sydney and Perth? I don't know. Anyway, do you need any of those questions repeated? Nobody has said anything in the comments about repeating questions, so I'm assuming it's all good. So let's go through the answers to round 2. Kim would like question 20 repeated. That was, which 1979 film takes its name from the belief that an out-of-control nuclear reactor could burn its way through the center of the Earth? It's one of those iconic phrases, I guess you might say. Don't know if the film came first or the phrase first, but anyway. All right, let's get through the answers to round 2. Question 1 was, how many holes are there in a normal 10-pin bowling ball? There's 3. The answer is just 3. Question 2, which is the only Australian state which has no history of convict settlers? That is South Australia. Mostly, I think, religious people settling there, hence Adelaide being the city of churches and bodies and barrels. Yes, the city of churches, lots of churches. If you ever go to Adelaide, it really does have lots of churches. And I think that's why, because it was mostly religious settlers rather than convicts. Anyway, question 3, which name is used for the raised area at the front of a saddle and the counterweight on the end of a European sword hilt? Both of those things are called a pommel. Pommel, a pommel. Question 4, The Four Seasons is perhaps the best known work of which Baroque composer? That is Antonio Vivaldi. One of my favorites too. Actually, I think it's the storm bit of Summer of the Four Seasons. Amazing. Seen it live. 4 people smashing away at violins. Brilliant. Anyway, question 5. What is one of the first objects visible in the night sky is the evening star. What is the correct name for this object? Well, the evening star is actually the planet Venus. It's visible early in the evening, and it's very bright because it's towards the sun from us. So the sunlight, when the sun is near the horizon, the light's bouncing off Venus, lighting it up, making it very bright. Anyway, the answer to question 5 is the planet Venus. It's not a star at all. Question 6. In standard tuning, the top and bottom strings of a guitar are tuned to which note? That is E for echo. They're both E. Question 7. Which handheld radiation measuring device? Well, if you can name another one, I'll be impressed. Obviously, it's the Geiger counter. I don't know why the other guy does not get credited with the name. It should be known as a Geiger-Muller counter, M-U-L-L-E-R, because it was Hans Geiger and Walther Muller. But anyway, everyone just knows it as a Geiger counter. Question 8. How old was Henry VIII when he inherited the throne? Was he 7, 17, 27, or 37? The answer is B, 17 is how old he was. And we had a bonus point. How old was he when he died? The bonus point goes to you if you said he was 55. 55 years old. He died in 1547 in the Palace of Whitehall, London. Anywho, question 9. Hugh Laurie played Dr. House. But what was the first name of the character, Dr. House? He was Dr. Gregory House, or Dr. Greg House. Davey says the tubes are still called Muller tubes. There you go. Geiger gets the counter, Muller gets the tubes. Fair enough. So the answer to question 9 is Greg or Gregory. Question 10, Charles Kingsford Smith made the world's first trans-Pacific flight in a plane with what name? That was the Southern Cross. Question 11, South Shields and North Shields are 2 towns in the UK on either side of which river? They're quite iconic locations to do with Geordies, which are people who are from Newcastle. And Newcastle, that's Newcastle on Tyne. The river is the Tyne. It's also known as Tyneside. That whole area is known as Tyneside. T-Y-N-E. So the answer to question 11 is Tyne, the river Tyne, T-Y-N-E. Question 12, I'm not going to do a Geordie accent because I would not be able to pull it off, but you'll know them when you hear them. Question 12, in the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which dance begins with a jump to the left? It is, of course, the time warp. Question 13, tourists in Ireland probably don't at the moment thanks to COVID, but in theory they kiss which stone in the hope of receiving the gift of the gab? That is the Blarney Stone. The Blarney Stone, B-L-A-R-N-E-Y, Blarney Stone. And the gift of the gab, I think that means that you're very persuasive when you speak. Question 14, if you are in a Thai restaurant and you order a dish with the word moo in the name, what meat are you ordering? Did you think it was cow? Of course it wasn't cow. It is pork. The Thai word for pork meat is moo. And I know the Thai word for chicken is gai, G-A-I. And I think beef is larb, L-A-R-B. I'm not going to Google that because it's going to take too long to find. But anyway, the answer to question 14, if you get something with the word moo in the name, it is pork. Question 15, what is bradycardia? Bradycardia is not anything to do with the Brady Bunch. It is, well, tachycardia is a fast heart rate. Bradycardia is a slow heart rate. So it's good to have a slow heartbeat. I have been told by GPs and whatever that I have a strong, slow heartbeat, which is good in some ways. But speaking of my finger, when they had to give me a general anesthetic, amazingly, they had to do like microsurgery. So they had to knock me out and give me this nerve thing that turned my arm off for a day. The anesthetist was a bit concerned because my heart rate was lower than they generally like to knock people out with. And I said, I'm just a chilled out dude. What do you want me to do? I can do some star jumps if you like. But I just have a strong, slow heart. But if yours is too slow, then you have bradycardia. Question 15. All right, question 16. Which band told us in 1985 that they built this city on rock and roll? It is, of course, Starship. Which used to be called Jefferson Starship, used to be called Jefferson Airplane. Let's not go down that trivia road. I was going to have a bonus point who wrote the song because it was written by Bernie Taupin, who is famously Elton John's songwriter, but it turns out when you look it up, there's actually like 4 songwriters credited. So anyway, the answer is Starship. Question 17. Sciatica is a medical condition caused by irritation to what? Is it A, a muscle, B, a nerve, C, a bone, or D, connecting tissue? The answer is B, a nerve. In fact, it is the sciatic nerve that is being irritated and causes sciatica. Haven't had it, but I've heard it's pretty bad. Question 18. In the world of Star Trek, which alien species has the catchphrase, resistance is futile? I kind of got a bit carried away and I gave a bit of the speech that Locutus of Borg, the answer is Borg, gives. But of course, Locutus of Borg is mostly human because he's Captain Picard when he gets captured by the Borg. It's one of the best episodes of Star Trek Next Generation. Just a two-parter. I remember when it came out. It was a cliffhanger. Anyway, the answer is the Borg. It's a little tricky because by their very nature, they absorb other species into themselves. That's what they do. But I would argue that once you get absorbed into the Borg, no matter what your original species was, you become a Borg. So the answer is Borg. Question 19. Which heavy metal band had hits with songs called One, Fade to Black, and For Whom the Bell Tolls? It is, of course, Metallica. Everyone knows Metallica. They're that band that made 4 really good albums and then never made any more albums after that. Isn't that right? Good. Something of a bone of contention between myself and a few friends. I'll allow some bits of the Black Album. All right. But after that, no. Question 20. Which 1979 film takes its name from the belief that an out-of-control nuclear reactor could burn its way through the center of the Earth? That film is called The China Syndrome, because the idea was that it would burn its way through to China. So the answer is The China Syndrome. It's not true, of course. I assume, would run out of energy eventually or get stuff it couldn't get through. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. Yes, Davey, I ranted about Metallica. And I don't apologize for it. I stand proud by my belief that Metallica only ever made 4.5 albums. Anyway, how did you go? That's the end of round 2, I should say. Ad's got 15. Jill, Joan, and Chris got 16. Nikki got 11. Pierrot got 3. He's halving every time. Next time he's going to get 1.5 points. Kim got 12. Jefferson Airplane, Jefferson Starship, and finally Starship. I know. I'd started to go down that trivia road because then I would start telling you about how I have been to the Fur Peace Ranch. I've done a guitar course at the Fur Peace Ranch, which is the personal ranch of Jefferson Airplane lead singer, guitarist, dude. Main guy is, of course, Mental Blank. Come on, the Finnish, what's his name? Jorma Kaukonen, that's the one. He's not Finnish. He was born in Washington. Anyway, he's got a very Finnish-sounding name to my ear. Anyway, it's his personal ranch. He wasn't there, annoyingly. But anyway, I did a guitar course there. It was really good. In Ohio. Right. Kim got 12. Simone got 12. Meryl got 14. Stephen got 12. David Jones got 12. Not too shabby. There's a message on the Facebook page. Peter got 15. I haven't seen Galen Lance this week. They also often message on the Facebook page, but that's cool. They can watch it later if they want. Okay. That brings us to our round 3, which is our tricky, difficult, silly round. Might just be obscure this week. Anyway, let's find out. So if you get any points in this round, you're doing pretty well. Okay, round 3, question 1. Which department store, founded by a Welsh immigrant in 1838, is the oldest continuously operating department store in the world still trading under its original name? Round 3, question 1. Which department store, founded by a Welsh immigrant in 1838, is the oldest continuously operating department store in the world still trading under its original name? Question 2. One of the catchphrases associated with Elvis Presley is the acronym TCB. In fact, he famously used to have a belt buckle with TCB written on it. And I believe the name of his backing band was the TCB Band. What does TCB stand for? Round 3, question 2. One of the catchphrases associated with Elvis Presley is the acronym TCB, Tango Charlie Bravo. What does TCB stand for? Question 3. What was the major contribution to Australian culinary culture developed by Cyril P. Callister? Round 3, question 3. What was the major contribution to Australian culinary culture developed by Cyril P. Callister? I think the P stands for Percy, not that that is any kind of clue. Cyril Percy Callister. Question 4. Which 2 Australian state capitals are closest together? Question 4. Which 2 Australian state capitals are closest together? I'll let you think about that one for a minute. Question 4 was which 2 Australian state capitals are closest together? Question 5, which word has been used since medieval times for a red deer stag over 5 years old? Question 5, which word has been used since medieval times for a red deer stag over 5 years old? So it's a particular word. I mean, the question is the question, but yeah, it's a word you've almost certainly heard, but perhaps didn't realize what was meant by it. Question 6. Which New Zealand-born British physicist is considered the father of nuclear physics? Question 6. Which New Zealand-born British physicist is considered the father of nuclear physics? And you thought we weren't going to have our mandatory periodic table question this week, didn't you? Question 7. If you list the chemical elements in the alphabetical order of their chemical symbols, as in not their names, but their symbols, so the 1 or 2 letter symbols, which element immediately follows silver? So question 7, if you list the chemical elements in the alphabetical order of their chemical symbols, which element immediately follows silver? So for example, I don't mean the word hydrogen, I mean the symbol, which is H. I don't mean the word helium, I mean the symbol, which in the case of helium is He. Okay? So if you list the chemical elements in the alphabetical order of their chemical symbols, which element immediately follows silver? I'll let you think about that one for a sec. That's a proper round 3 question. Not something you know off the top of your head, but if you have the relevant information, you can work it out, which is what makes it a good round 3 question. Question 8. When Matthew Flinders first circumnavigated Australia, what was the name of his vessel? Now, originally I had this as multiple choice, and I do have the multiple choice answers here, but it's round 3. So I'm just going to let you do your best. Question 8. When Matthew Flinders first circumnavigated Australia, what was the name of his vessel? Question 9. What kind of animal is a Hayabusa? Hayabusa. What kind of animal is a Hayabusa? Just generally speaking, what kind of animal? Don't need to be too specific. And question 10. If you win the Italian Open in golf, you are traditionally awarded, your own weight in what? Question 10. If you win the Italian Open in golf, you are traditionally awarded your own weight in what? All right, that's the end of round 3. Only 10 questions in round 3. And if you're staring blankly at your screen with no clue, that is normal. If you found them all easy and you think you have 10 points, I'm impressed. If you need any of those repeated, let me know. Otherwise, I'll give you a couple of, 30 seconds or so to think about that while I do some Facebook housekeeping. Quattro Formaggio. Right. Good. All going well. Let's get back to Trev. Okay. Let's go through the answers to round 3. Nobody seems to need any of them repeated, so you're all very confident of your answers, or very confident that you don't know the answer. Either one's fine. Round 3, question 1. Which department store founded by a Welsh immigrant in 1838 is the oldest continuously operating department store in the world, still trading under its original name? That is, of course, think of a very Welsh name. It is David Jones. Not Davy Jones, but David Jones. And I know they've changed hands and they've been bought by foreign companies and all that kind of stuff. But if you go to their page, if you go to davidjones.com even, it says the oldest department store in the world still trading under its original name. And it's also mentioned on the wiki page. They're now owned by South African retail group Woolworths Holdings Limited, no relation to Woolworths Supermarkets. Anyway, the answer is David Jones. Question 2. One of the catchphrases associated with Elvis Presley is the acronym TCB. What does TCB stand for? It stands for Taking Care of Business. I don't know if that's a euphemism or it's just a reference to getting stuff done, but anyway, it's Taking Care of Business, TCB. Question 3. What is the major contribution to Australian culinary culture developed by Cyril P. Callister? Well, it could be one of a few things, I suppose. It could be the Chico roll. It could be the meat pie. Could be the kebab plate. No, it is in fact Vegemite. Cyril P. Callister developed Vegemite. Question 4. Which 2 Australian state capitals are closest together? The answer is actually Melbourne and Hobart. Those are the 2 that are closest together. And I think I saw something, this may not be correct, this is a supplemental fact which is open to debate, but I think I saw something that said Hobart is actually closer to Antarctica than it is to Melbourne. And even so, they're still the closest Australian capital cities to each other. Anyway, the answer is Melbourne and Hobart. I guess if you got one right, you can have half a point if you put Sydney and Melbourne. Question 6. Which word has been used since medieval times for a red deer stag over 5 years old? That is a hart, H-A-R-T. The only time I've ever heard hart is White Hart Lane. Isn't that a soccer field somewhere in the UK? And sometimes you get pubs called the White Hart. But anyway, a hart, H-A-R-T, is specifically a red deer, as in the species, the red deer, a stag, so a male, over 5 years old. It's known as a hart. And the reason why they're significant is apparently that is if you're a hunter of such things back in medieval times, because you were a board royal or whatever, a hart is quite a prestigious thing to hunt. That's the thing you're trying to get, a youngish but big stag. Anyway, question 6. Which New Zealand-born British physicist is considered the father of nuclear physics? I'll be depressed if nobody got this, but hopefully some people got it. It's Ernest Rutherford, who you may or may not have heard of. But if you think about the reason why he's considered the father of nuclear physics is, if I said to you, what does an atom look like? And you have in your mind the picture of, the nucleus with the protons and neutrons, and then orbiting it are the electrons. That's not really what it looks like. That's a model that we use to understand what it looks like. That model is called the Rutherford model. It was Ernest Rutherford's idea to come up with that explanation of how an atom works. Anyway, the answer is Ernest Rutherford. Question 7. If you list all the chemical elements, this is a good question, this one. If you list all the chemical elements in alphabetical order of their chemical symbols, which element immediately follows silver? Right. So, of course, the slight trick in the question is that silver, the chemical symbol is Ag. So then you need the next element that follows silver. It's not gold, which is Au. It is aluminium, which is Al. So the answer to question 7 is aluminium. Immediately follows silver if you put their symbols in alphabetical order. The answer is aluminium, or aluminum, as the Americans call it. And they discovered it so they can call it what they like. Question 8. When Matthew Flinders first circumnavigated Australia, what was the name of his vessel? It was the HMS Investigator. HMS Investigator. He did do some stuff in a little boat called the Tom Thumb and the Tom Thumb 2, but he didn't circumnavigate Australia in that boat. Simone got the aluminium one. Well done. Question 9. What kind of animal is a Hayabusa? It is a bird. It's essentially a Japanese variant of the peregrine falcon. It's a very fast flying bird. And motorcycle fans will know this because for a long time, the fastest production bike in the world was the Honda Blackbird. And Suzuki made a bike specifically to topple the Blackbird from the crown of the fastest production motorcycle in the world. And they named it after the Hayabusa. Why? Because it's a fast flying bird. But also, the story goes, because in the wild, Hayabusas kill blackbirds. Anyway, the answer is it's a bird. It's a fast-flying bird. Question 10. If you win the Italian Open in golf, you are awarded your own weight in what? I got to say, I don't know what I would do with more or less 100 kilos of Parmesan cheese, but that's the answer. If you win the Italian Open in golf, you are awarded your own weight in cheese. I will accept cheese, but it is specifically Gran Pomodoro, whatever it's called. It's the specific fancy Parmesan cheese. I don't know what you're going to do with it, but anyway, we did have a half-point question, Purett. If you got one of the cities in the Hobart, Melbourne question, then you would have got half a point. Anyway, that's the end of round 3. If you win the Italian Open in golf, you're awarded your own weight in cheese, specifically Parmesan cheese. Right. Purett got 1 point. Ads got 1 point. Nirel got 1.5. Stephen got 1.5. Narelle said olive oil. Man, imagine getting your own weight in olive oil. How would you transport it? I mean, how would you transport your own weight in Parmesan cheese? Anyway, I mean, what do you do with it? How do you eat that much cheese before it goes off? Imagine what your car would smell like. Anyway, Jill, Jonah, Chris 7, Simone 3.5. Narelle got aluminium. Very good. Jill said pizza. Imagine getting your own weight in pizza. Man. Anyway, Kim got 3. And my phone is buzzing and I don't have the Facebook page open. So I'm assuming we have a score from Peter. And it is 4. Yeah, so not too bad. I think that was an appropriately difficult round 3. I think the highest score, Jill, Jonah, Chris got 7. They normally score pretty well. And now we're into the total scores. Davey got 5. That's pretty good. Jill got 41 total. Simone got 34 total out of it. Write it on the back of a postcard. Davey says Parmesan cheese doesn't go off. It just petrifies. That's true. After about a month, you can probably build a house out of 100 kilos of it. Anyway, that brings us to the end of the 3rd round, which leaves only the Who Am I questions. 28 so far, says Davey. He's confident about the Who Am I's. Okay, so you can use this as a tiebreaker if you are in a tiebreaker situation. If you're not, just have a crack. That's fine. And you are allowed to put the answers to these into the YouTube comments as we go along if you think you know the answer. So the way this works is I'm going to read out clues about a person, place, thing, year, object, fish, monkey, badger, whatever. And as I go along, if you think you know what I'm talking about, you can have a crack at it. If you get it right, you win the tiebreaker. If you get it wrong, you lose the tiebreaker. The other person wins. So you want to be fast, but you need to be correct. Narelle got 29.5. Stephen got 24.5. Okay. Bonus 5 points for the Who Am I? No. Okay, but like I say, if you're not playing, if you're not in a tiebreaker, then just play along. That's fine. In fact, I don't know if we've ever had a tiebreaker that's been settled by this. I tried to force Narelle and Stephen into one the other week, but they wouldn't have it. So anyway, let's get cracking with the first one. There are 2. The first one is the official tiebreaker. The second one's just for fun. Here we go. Who am I? I was born in 1842 in what is now Fitzroy in Melbourne, Australia, of Scottish immigrant parents. I was educated by private schools and by my father. I began work as a clerk in a stationery store in Melbourne before taking a job as a governess at the estate of my aunt and uncle in South Australia, teaching their children. Concerned for the poor, I also included the other children on the farm. I took a job teaching at a school in Portland, Victoria, and eventually founded my own boarding school, the Bayview House Seminary. In 1866, I was invited to open a Catholic school with my sisters and Father Woods. At this time, I made a declaration of my dedication to God, and I began wearing simple black clothes. My religious devotion and concern for the education of the poor continued, and after my death in 1909, the process to declare me a saint began in 1925. I was formally canonized as Australia's first saint in 2010. I am Mary MacKillop. Pierrot said Mary Magdalene, which I think he was in the right area, but slightly different part of the religious canon there. That's fair enough, Pierrot. Hard to say who won that one. I think Peter was pretty early in the Facebook comments, but I think Jill was probably first in the YouTube comments. Mary MacKillop, Chris there as well. Okay, good. Mary MacKillop, Australia's first saint. Right, so that's that one sorted. Let's have the second one. This will be the last question of the night. It's another Who Am I? I was born in 1809 and I died in 1849. I was orphaned as a young child and taken in by a family who were quite poor. I attended the University of Virginia, but left after one semester due to lack of money. I quarreled with my foster father over money for my education and eventually enlisted in the army in 1827. While in the army, I published an anonymous collection of poems. I failed the officer cadet course at West Point and declared my intention to become a poet and writer. I began writing for literary journals, becoming a well-known critic. I moved from city to city, and in 1836, I married my 13-year-old cousin. In 1845, I published one of my most famous works to immediate success, but sadly, my wife died of TB 2 years later. The cause of my own death at age 40 is unknown and has been attributed to alcohol, brain congestion, cholera, drug overdose, rabies, suicide, or TB, among other theories. My published works heavily influenced literature in the United States and around the world, as well as the fields of cosmology and cryptography. The Mystery Writers of America present an annual award in my name. One of Boston's most famous citizens, I am perhaps best known for my poem, The Raven. I am Edgar Allan Poe. Don't think anyone got that one. Nope, we had a few guesses along the way. T.S. Eliot, Mark Twain, Oliver Twist. I think that was an early guess from Pierrot, being orphaned as a young child. Lovecraft. Nope. I was Edgar Allan Poe. He spent much of his time tending to his poor wife, as she unfortunately took a very, well, careful how I phrase that. She took a very long time to die from TB, which is a terrible thing. And he cared for her during that time and wrote a lot during that time because it was the way you could make money from while being at home. Anyway, one of my favorite writers, along with Lovecraft and all those guys, classic horror. It's like reading wrought iron, that stuff. It's so descriptive and detailed. Anyway, that brings us to the end of the quiz for tonight. Hope you had fun. Hope to see you next week. It's nice to see the same regulars coming every time, but, you know, invite a friend. Be nice to see twice as many people next week. I will make the event in advance like I did this week. Maybe even throw a few Facebook bucks at it to promote it. How many have we got before Christmas? We've got 1, 2, 3 before Christmas. Probably do a Christmas special one. I keep skipping over Christmas questions when I'm looking through my questions document. And I'll put them all together into a Christmas quiz. Anyway, hope you had fun. Stay safe. Try not to get too stressed by the world at large. And I'll see you next week. Bye.